Thank you. And for years now, progressives in the media have disparaged law enforcement at every opportunity. From the Defund the Police movement to agenda-driven liberal district attorneys in cities like San Francisco, Los Angeles, Philadelphia, and New York, there is a clear strategic effort on the part of Democrats to demean police officers nationwide at the expense of law and order. In 2021, according to the Fraternal Order of Police, 346 officers were shot, 63 fatally. Additionally, there were 103 ambush-style attacks on law enforcement, a 115% increase from 2020. Even as members of the Democratic Party are victims of increasing crimes, they are unwavering in their aggression on those in uniform who stand on the front lines and every day protect and serve our communities. Rather than acknowledging and thanking these brave men and women, Democrats have repeatedly gone out of their way to put the blame on those in uniform. They may claim otherwise, but here are the words straight from their mouth.
What's up, everyone? Today we're diving into an explosive confrontation on the House floor where a brave Congresswoman absolutely demolished the anti-police rhetoric coming from Ilhan Omar, AOC, and other progressive Democrats. This showdown exposed the dangerous hypocrisy behind the Defund the Police movement and revealed the shocking statistics about attacks on our law enforcement. Let's break down exactly what happened and why this matters to every single American who cares about safety in their communities.
And if we need to make sure that we are quoting people today, I am more than willing to do that. Police in our country are more concerned with protecting white supremacy than serving the communities that pay their salaries. Representative Bauman. Defunding the police isn't radical, it's real. Representative Cori Bush. The truth is that abolishing ICE isn't that radical. We reorganize government all the time, creating some agencies and eliminating others. Nevertheless, it is a bold proposal. It's time to be bold. It's time to abolish ICE. Representative Mark Pocan. The Defend the Police movement is one of reimagining the current police system to build an entity that does not violate us while relocating funds to invest in community services. Representative Ilhan Omar. Defunding the police means defunding the police. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. We're spending too much money on police. There should be substantial cuts to police department to the police budget and a reallocation of those funds. Representative Jerry Nadler. And now they expect us to believe they support our law enforcement. They think that putting these bills forward will make the American people believe they care about law enforcement. It seems that it has taken them until now to see how out of touch they are with the American people.
Great advocates on our side of the aisle. The gentleman from Ohio, Mr. Jordan.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the gentleman from Georgia for yielding. And I, too, want to urge a no vote on the previous question so we can address Mr. Stubbe's vote on and hopefully pass Mr. Stubbe's resolution, a resolution which is real basic, has 4 basic components to it. Justice for George Floyd's family. What happened in Minneapolis, we all know, was a tragedy, never should have happened. Wrong as wrong could be, and his family deserves justice, and our resolution calls for that. It also calls for justice for police officers and others who have suffered violence. Police officers like Pat Underwood, who, along with George Floyd's brother, Pat Underwood's sister, came and testified just 2 weeks ago in front of the Judiciary Committee, serving his community as a law enforcement officer attacked and killed. The resolution that would happen if we vote no on the previous question also condemns violence, all violence, and the creation of autonomous zones. There is a big difference. There is a big difference between peaceful protests, exercising our First Amendment liberties guaranteed to us under our great Constitution, the greatest Constitution ever. There is a big difference between peaceful protest and rioting. There is a big difference between peaceful protest and violence. There is a big difference between peaceful protest and attacking police officers. And there is certainly a big difference between peaceful protest and forming Chaz or CHOP or any type of autonomous zone separating from our great country. And this resolution condemns that kind of practice as well. And finally, our resolution strongly opposes what I think is one of the craziest public policy proposals I have ever seen. This idea that we are going to defund the police. You know, it's funny because I hear some Democrats say defund the police doesn't mean defund the police. I'm like, well, change the sentence. It's 3 words. It's exactly what it means. Our biggest cities, the mayor of New York, de Blasio, has already said he's going to defund the police $1 billion. He got rid of the plainclothes unit in their department. Garcetti, the mayor of our second largest city, said he's going to defund the police $150 million. Baltimore, Hartford, Minneapolis, they went a step further. Minneapolis, supermajority of their city council, it's interesting to point out, 13 people on the city council. Guess how many of them are Republicans? 12 Democrats. Well, excuse me, 12 on the city council, I think. No, 13, excuse me, 13, that's right. 12 Democrats and 1 Green Party. They've already decided they're going to abolish the police department. This is crazy. So let's vote no on this previous question. Let's bring up a resolution that I think is consistent where American values are, consistent with the problems we face, consistent with the situation, the serious situation we are in. Let's vote no on the previous question. If we defund the police, I'll finish with this, Madam Speaker. We had a witness the last couple of weeks in 2 different hearings, a judiciary hearing and then an oversight hearing. Dan Bongino, former NYPD, Secret Service, protected President Clinton, Bush, Obama, worked in the NYPD, worked in neighborhood in Brooklyn. He talked about, if you do this, if we allow this concept, this defund the police concept to happen, to take root and to actually take place, it will not only be tough for police officers, we all know that, but the communities they serve, what will happen there is frightening. So urge a no vote on the previous question. Let's take up the Stubbe resolution. Yield back to my good friend from the great state of Georgia.
Law enforcement officers risk their lives every day. They deserve better, and the American people deserve. I have the floor, Mr. Jordan.
Lady has
What? Did I strike a nerve? Law enforcement officers deserve better than to be utilized as pawns. And you and your colleagues are ashamed of yourself.
The gentlelady will suspend and the clock will be stopped.
Mr. Chairman, I want to make it quite clear that this amendment is completely irrelevant. I served as a law enforcement officer for 27 years. It is a tough job, and good police officers deserve your support. You know, it's interesting to see my colleagues on the other side of the aisle support the police when it is politically convenient to do so. Law enforcement officers risk their lives every day. They deserve better, and the American people deserve. I have the floor, Mr. Jordan.
Lady has
What? Did I strike a nerve? Law enforcement officers deserve better than to be utilized as pawns. And you and your colleagues are ashamed of yourself.
The gentlelady will suspend and the clock will be stopped. I want to admonish members. They must not interrupt someone who has the time.
Mr. Chairman, can I
You
ask a
simply
question?
can't shout out. If you think that someone is saying
I agree.
Mr. Jordan, you don't know what in the heck you're talking about. You know nothing about what law enforcement officers
I know about my motive.
And you're using them as pawns because it serves your ridiculous political purpose.
Val, everyone must suspend. I am making the point. No one may shout out when someone else has the time. Not Mr. Gomert.
Question, Mr. Chairman.
Not Mr. Jordan. Nobody.
Not Mr. Cicilline.
Not Miss
Demings.
He didn't do that. But nobody.
Not Mr. Jordan.
Not Miss.
Nobody.
Okay, no, but I agree with that. But
and how do we?
Everybody.
I have a question.
I will simply. There is no question. Nobody may shout out.
When you give a speech, Mr. Chairman, about motives and questioning motives, and then our motives are questioned, how do we address that?
The rules allow a request words
I have watched them live and die and you know nothing about that, and to utilize them as political
Mr. Chairman,
pawns.
I have a point of...
Law enforcement officers risk their lives every day. They deserve better, and the American people deserve. I have the floor, Mr. Jordan.
Lady has
What, did I strike a nerve? Law enforcement officers deserve better than to be utilized as pawns. And you and your colleagues are ashamed of yourself.
The gentlelady will suspend and the clock will be stopped. The gentlelady yields back. For what purpose does Mr. Bishop seek recognition?
Move to strike the last word.
Gentleman is recognized.
You know, to the points that several have made on this side of the aisle, including Mr. Gates, I was intrigued. As was pointed out by some, this bill is passed and previously on a voice vote on the floor, meaning that nobody called for a roll call, nobody's terribly upset about it. To the extent you talk about domestic terrorism, white supremacy, there's been unanimity in Congress in opposition to that. But the problem is, and the reason the parents going to school board meetings and being the subject of the Attorney General's memorandum calling for meetings all over the country of federal law enforcement with other community leaders to sort of target them, and the threat tagging and so forth, the reason that gets called up is it begs the question, what is the motivation of this? And I was listening to my colleagues, Mr. Chairman, Ms. Jackson Lee, she gave a roll call, as she said, but she didn't mention Waukesha, Wisconsin. Why not? She didn't mention when she talked about Colleyville, that was the one where she'd been talking about white supremacy, but she didn't mention the motivation of that one. That wasn't about white supremacy. It was an Islamic terrorist. The focus, the reason for the focus eludes me. So I looked at the chairman's memo to the committee, and you have, here it is, it's hate crime and domestic terrorism statistics. It says since there's been a 30% increase in 2019 in incidents motivated by race, ethnicity, or ancestry. Interesting thing to me is that reminded me of another statistic. There's been a 30% increase in homicides in 2020 across the country. This also says that since 2015, right-wing extremists have been involved in 267 plots, completed attacks, and 91 fatalities. That's over 7 years. Just under half were in connection with involved white supremacy. That would suggest about 45. Well, just in that year of increase in homicides, 5,000 more people were killed. How is this the priority? How is this the one that justifies reorganizing the FBI? And in order to do it, you redefine effectively what domestic terrorism is. Domestic terrorism is in a statute along with international terrorism. The only difference is international terrorism is that which occurs abroad, usually injuring Americans somehow, or that which transcends boundaries. Domestic is just the results happen in the United States. Well, you strip away all of that for the purpose of doing this reporting, except for those that are committed by people that are citizens or domiciled in the United States. Who are you targeting? And then later on of course, mention's been made of the January 6th riot at the Capitol. You have two things here. You're back to vilifying police officers. If you want to look for a cause of why we had a 30% increase in homicides, 5,000 more homicides across the country, probably because the Democratic Party made it its mission to defund the police and to characterize and to vilify police. And here you're doing it again, talking about white supremacy in the military, based on, as I read it, a handful of 10 or 20, or I don't even say it was that many. In one case, a Marine, it's like one person. And then you also vilify law enforcement. You're citing somebody's article that talks about the epidemic of white supremacy in law enforcement. My goodness. Have you learned nothing since undertaking the stupidest political activism in the history of the world to attack and defund police? Murders go through the roof, 5,000 more murders. But where is your priority? The priority is to codify. In fact, what are you doing here? You're codifying practices apparently the FBI is already undertaking. But I suggest that the activities the FBI has undertaken ought to be cause for concern. We haven't seen, there's been absolutely a total nonchalance from the majority about the Attorney General's memo. The chairman just said, in the opening remarks in response to Mr. Jordan that it's no big deal. The National School Boards Association apologized for its letter. Indeed, it did. But the Attorney General has not withdrawn his memorandum directing federal law enforcement across the country to focus on parents. We had the U.S. Attorney from Washington in here just a week or so ago in the crime committee, and we asked him, did you have any incidents in Washington that justified this? Nope, didn't know of any that warranted a nationwide scope of action.
The tension in Congress has been building for years. Progressive Democrats have been on a mission to undermine law enforcement at every turn. From pushing the Defund the Police movement to appointing soft-on-crime district attorneys in major cities like San Francisco, Los Angeles, Philadelphia, and New York. The receipts are all there. Representative Bowman claimed that police are more concerned with protecting white supremacy than serving communities. Cori Bush called for abolishing ICE. Ilhan Omar straight up admitted defunding the police means defunding the police. And AOC demanded substantial cuts to police budgets. These aren't just empty words. They're part of a coordinated strategy that's having devastating real-world consequences. The numbers don't lie. In 2021 alone, over 3,000 police officers were shot. Let that sink in. 63 of those brave men and women died from their injuries. Even more alarming, there were 103 ambush-style attacks on law enforcement, a mind-blowing 115% increase from a previous year. While Democrats claim to care about public safety, their actions tell a completely different story. Major Democrat-run cities have slashed police budgets by millions. New York City cut $1 billion. Los Angeles slashed $150 million. And Minneapolis? Their city council, made up of 12 Democrats and 1 Green Party member, voted to completely abolish their police department. The results speak for themselves. Homicides skyrocketed by 30%. That's 5,000 more murders across the country. Real people, real lives lost because of dangerous political games. Representative Jim Jordan stepped up with a resolution that any reasonable American could support. It had 4 simple components. First, justice for George Floyd's family. Jordan acknowledged the tragedy in Minneapolis was wrong and should never have happened. Second, justice for police officers who have suffered violence, like Officer Pat Underwood, who was killed while serving his community. Third, condemning all violence and the creation of autonomous zones. As Jordan pointed out, there's a massive difference between peaceful protest and rioting, between exercising First Amendment rights and attacking police officers. And fourth, strongly opposing the insane proposal to defund the police. As Jordan put it, defund the police isn't some complex policy. It's 3 simple words that mean exactly what they say. This is where things got heated. During the debate, a former law enforcement officer serving in Congress was speaking about her 27 years of experience when Jim Jordan interrupted her. Did I strike a nerve? Jordan called out, suggesting Democrats only support police when it's politically convenient. What followed was an intense exchange. The Congresswoman fired back that Jordan knew nothing about law enforcement and accused Republicans of using police as political pawns. The chair had to intervene multiple times to restore order as emotions boiled over. This raw moment exposed the fundamental divide in America today. On one side, those who respect and support law enforcement. On the other, those who vilify and undermine them for political gain. Before we get to the final takedown, if you're enjoying this breakdown of what the mainstream media won't show you, smash that subscribe button right now. I bring you these unfiltered political confrontations every week, exposing the hypocrisy that other channels won't touch. Representative Bishop delivered the knockout blow when he questioned why Democrats obsess over certain types of extremism while ignoring others. He pointed out that while they focus on isolated incidents, 5,000 more Americans were murdered due to the anti-police policies they championed. Bishop asked the critical question, how is this the priority? He exposed how Democrats have redefined domestic terrorism to target specific groups while ignoring the massive spike in violent crime affecting everyday Americans. The reality is clear. The same party that made it their mission to defund and vilify police officers is now wondering why crime is out of control. As Bishop put it, this may be the stupidest political activism in the history of the world. This congressional showdown reveals exactly what's at stake in America today. While progressive Democrats continue pushing dangerous anti-police rhetoric, brave representatives are standing up for the men and women who risk their lives to keep us safe. The statistics don't lie, the quotes don't lie, and the consequences don't lie. When you undermine law enforcement, real people suffer. This isn't about politics, it's about public safety and common sense. That's all for today's video. If you want more unfiltered coverage of what's really happening in Washington, hit that subscribe button and notification bell. Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video.